Yo, what's good, everybody? Today I'm talking about the letdown of a fight that was Ryan Garcia versus Rolly Romero. First of all, I do want to congratulate Rolly on the biggest win of his career. He pulled off an enormous upset to spoil the plans. There were a lot of public talks of the Devin Haney rematch, and Ryan really paid no mind to Rolly at all in this build-up. This man was bringing up Devin, To, Boots, Connor, Ben. Rolly was just disrespected to his face over and over again during this build-up. And what did this legend do? Well, he stayed in his lane. He accepted the way things were. He didn't bitch, he didn't moan, he didn't beg for Ryan to pay attention to him. He understood the way the business works and he just let it be, right? And he focused on nothing but Ryan Garcia, and he studied this man and he worked his butt off. And now he pulled off a major upset and he looked stupendous. Who would have known Rolly would have given Ryan a boxing lesson, right? Who had that on their bingo card? Because certainly not me. So yeah, I do want to give Rolly all the flowers, man, because he deserves it. In this fight, he had a good jab and he used it perfectly. He often probed with it, which is something Tank did real well against Ryan. Rolly's active jab forced Ryan to be mindful of it. He spent a lot of time and energy, mental energy defending it. Just Rolly made a great use of that jab. It was stiff, it was hard, and he stabbed to the body with it too. I thought Rolly fought a very educated fight, a disciplined and patient fight. The duration of his concentration lasted the whole fight, and that's not easy to do. His defense was very tight, chin tucked, and right hand constantly by his jaw to protect himself from Ryan's infamous left hook, and he was switched on the whole fight. He seemed to have studied Ryan a great deal, and you could see that. It looked like he knew what Ryan's tendencies were and what he likes to throw, and he negated everything Ryan did well. Something I noticed was that Rolly's controlled amount of offensive activity made it so Ryan had less counter punching opportunities. But Ryan himself, right, he didn't want to take offensive initiative because of the threat of a counter from Rolly. So let's talk about Ryan's special weapon real quick. His left hook, mysteriously enough, was absent for most of this fight. And I really credit that to Rolly. Rolly's power, pressure, and defense forced Ryan to holster his weapons most of the fight, in my opinion. Ryan's output was very low in this fight because I believe that he knew the danger that Rolly posed every time he opened up. That second round knockdown instilled fear in Ryan, and it just never left. On top of that, whenever Ryan did manage to summon the courage to throw anything, Rolly's defense was superb. He barely landed anything on Rolly's, which further discouraged Ryan from throwing. It was a vicious cycle, and Rolly did a spectacular job boxing Ryan's ears off tonight. Alright, now let's turn our attention to Ryan. What an abysmal performance, man. What a disappointing return fight for him. It's clear to me now that Ryan doesn't take boxing seriously. I mean, this guy had a whole year out of the ring and he did not improve at all. Nothing new with him. Same old left hook. He is a one-trick pony. And this is what happens when that trick has been deciphered. He has nothing else, no other tool in the toolbox, nothing to call upon. Just so disappointing, man. What happened to Ryan Garcia? He had no fire in him this whole fight. No gear change, no sense of urgency, no will to win. Just looked and acted content for a decision loss. At this moment, I'm literally shaking my head, guys. I just don't understand. I don't get it. It's like he's shell shocked. There's a pattern with Ryan. He has a terrible habit of getting caught and dropped in the second round. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Campbell dropped him in the second, Tank dropped him in the second, and now Rolly dropped him in the second. In the case of Tank and Rolly, he fights completely different after. He becomes afraid. He no longer takes any chances, and his offensive output just drops drastically. In this fight, he just danced to Rolly's beat. He just complied to everything Rolly wanted to do. He fought in his pace, and he showed him so much respect. My goodness, it's frustrating. Ironically enough, though, the one time Ryan actually showed some sort of fighting spirit was right when he got knocked down. He stood right back up and went straight to the smoke. He went straight looking to get his lick back, but after that, really nothing. He just jabbed his way to a decision loss. Didn't even try to pretend to try. He just quit. He just quit. Not to completely shit on Ryan, right? He has displayed courage before, namely that Campbell fight. That was a great win for him, in my opinion, because he got dropped, but he got back up after tasting the canvas for the first time in his career. He dusted himself off and knocked Campbell out after, with a spectacular knockout. But since then, it seems to me that if it isn't going his way, he just mentally checks out and quits. And I'm not the type to say fighters quit, because obviously I know that it's one of the worst labels in combat sports, but it's just a pattern that I've been seeing in Ryan. And maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but in my opinion, he really did look like he mentally quit in there. But what do you think? What did you think of Ryan? What did you think of Rolly? Leave it all down in the comments below. I want to thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe, and I hope you have a lovely day. Oh, and very quickly before I go, I do want to give Ryan some more credit, because I thought his jab was fantastic when he did use it. And once again, I'm gonna die on the hill that Ryan does have a good chin. That shot that he took from Rolly was solid, and he got right back up. So props to Ryan for that. But yeah, that's all. Thank you for watching.